I first noticed the whispering one Saturday morning in the playground. The sun was bright, the swings creaked, and my 3-year-old Leo was learning to pump his legs higher than ever before. I was perched on the bench with my laptop balanced on my knee, trying to draft the next chapter of my upcoming picture book. Across the sandbox, I heard the familiar trill of her voice, Maria's, a tone I'd once mistaken for friendly interest. That morning, though, it had a different edge, a hushed buzz that carried on the spring breeze. She spends more time writing than watching him. I caught her say, voice low but clear. Her friend nodded, sipping coffee from a thermos. I kept typing, but my hands trembled. Maria's children, twins aged 5, were building a fortress of sand blocks at her feet. I glanced up, her eyes flicked toward me, then away, as if I weren't supposed to hear. I swallowed. There I was, a working mom armed with a keyboard and a head full of rhymes about talking turtles, subject to sideways judgment, in a place meant for laughter and slides. That moment planted a seed. Maria often lingered by the slide when I walked through the gate. "How's the manuscript?" she'd ask, voice too loud, tone dripping with feigned concern. I'd smile politely, nod, offer a snippet of my latest verse, a little hedgehog overcoming stage fright. But her face would tighten as I spoke, lips pressed, eyes flicking to her husband, pushing the twins on the swings. "Must be nice," she'd murmur. Having all that time, I tried to brush it off. After all, I loved writing, it nourished me. Yet each whispered remark added weight. I found myself censoring my mornings, delaying word counts until the twins' soccer practice or the grocery lines. The playground, once my haven, felt like a jury pit. Even my daughter's preschool pickup row wasn't safe. I'd crouch to tie her shoe, pretend to check a text, but I'd glance up to see her watching me, hairpins glinting in the sun, waiting for more gossip to drift across the vinyl slide. Then came the assignment. 2 months after those first whispers, I received an email from the school librarian. "Hello, Miss Whitaker. We're so pleased to include your book, The Star-Climbing Frog, in our 3rd grade curriculum this term. We'd love for you to visit for an author talk." My heart leapt. A dream come true. This book, months of revision, workshops, tear-soaked rewrites, would live in young hands, shape curious minds. But in the next breath, I felt the weight of Maria's whispers collide with this honor. At the next playground meet, Maria was there, twins in tow. She watched me sign drafts for an enthusiastic PTA group, posing for photos with proud kids. As I hugged the last copy, she cleared her throat. "Oh, you wrote that book," she said, loud enough for the circle of parents to hear. "Funny Todd's classroom, just got it on their reading list." She folded her arms. "Small world." The murmurs started. "I heard that book is sweet. Cute illustrations. Must be nice." My smile wavered under the dismissive chuckles. Maria stepped closer. "You know," she said, voice oily, "I was worried. I mean, who's running things while you're off playing school author?" Her tone implied the worst, that my children were neglected while I chased vanity projects. A stab of fury clenched my chest. I met her gaze, steadying my voice. "Actually, it's been wonderful. The kids love story time." I gestured to my son, enraptured by the tale of the frog's leap. "He's excited to see his mom's book on the blackboard." A pause rippled through the parents. Maria's mouth twitched as she sought a retort, but settled instead for a thin smile. That afternoon, I replayed the moment in my head. My hands shook as I logged into the school portal to send my bio and a photo for the classroom display. I imagined her shock when the poster went up. "Meet the author, Miss Whitaker, mom, maker, storyteller." My heart fluttered. I pictured her twins' faces lighting up as they realized their neighbor's mom was the frog champion. That evening, my husband Eric found me at the kitchen table, manuscript pages scattered like confetti. "You okay?" he asked, concern in his voice. I told him everything, the whispers, the assignment, Maria's jibe. He wrapped me in a hug. "You're sharing your gift. That's real parenting and real work." His words planted a seed of confidence. The next morning, the school invited me for a frog party, an impromptu celebration in the 3rd grade hallway. I arrived, arms full of plush eggs, lily pad stickers, and a bag of tiny toy frogs. The kids shrieked with delight. Even Maria's twins, red caps slipping, eyes wide, formed a line. Maria hovered at the back, phone poised to capture their reactions, smile fixed, but eyes unreadable. When the teacher introduced me, She mentioned my dual-role writer and mother. She described my nightly routine, bedtime stories followed by midnight edits, as inspiration for the students. The room burst into applause. I scanned the faces, eagerness, wonder, pure delight. Maria's twins waved. She pressed a finger to her lips, mouthing shh to them before settling down. I began reading, voice buoyant. The frog's clumsy attempts, the pond's gentle frogs cheering him on. It was a universal tale of daring to be different. The children laughed at my comedic pauses, gasped at my dramatic leaps, recited refrains. I glanced at Maria. Her eyes softened. She bit her lip as I described the pond dweller's pride. I felt a shift, as if her heart, long locked in judgment, was opening a crack. After reading, I invited questions. Hands shot up. How did you think of the frog? What's your favorite character? Can you sign my book? Maria's twins looked at her expectantly. She nodded, and they scampered forward. When it was their turn, the older twin blurted, "I love your pond scene, Miss Whitaker." His sister added, "My teacher says you're a real author." They beamed. Maria's cheeks flushed. When I signed their books, she whispered, "Thank you." Her tone was quiet, genuine. For a moment I saw the woman behind the gossip, a mother striving to fit in, anxious about her own identity. My hope swelled. Perhaps my work had bridged a gap bigger than whispered judgments. On the walk home, I reflected on the alchemy of truth and tale. Gossip, flimsy as dust, couldn't withstand the weight of shared stories. My children's book had nudged open a door in a hardened heart, reminding everyone, especially that vigilant neighbor, that parenting isn't measured by convenience or conformity, but by courage to follow a calling and to share wonder. That night, I tucked Leo into bed, his frog plush clutched tight. "Mom," he said, yawn thick in his voice, "you're the best frog storyteller ever." I kissed his forehead, "And you're my bravest jumper." I closed the door and sat at my desk. The manuscript for Book 2 lay ready, but I paused to jot a note in my planner. Remember, every whisper is a chance to change a mind. Then I opened a fresh page and began to type, fingers dancing across the keys, fueled by the knowledge that even the smallest voices, mine, theirs, ours, can flood a hall with new possibilities. As the moonlight wrapped around my keyboard, I felt gratitude for the journey, for the gossip that tried to mute me, and for the children whose eager eyes taught me that the truest measure of a parent's legacy is the stories we leave behind. Part 2 begins with the ripples of this school visit, and the unexpected ways a children's book can rewrite a community's narrative. I returned home that evening, still buzzing from the students' laughter. The next morning, I found a polite envelope, slipped under our front door, sealed with a tiny frog sticker. Inside was a handwritten note from Maria. "Thank you for yesterday." Seeing the twins so excited reminded me how important stories are. "I'm sorry for the things I said." My chest tightened. An apology from Maria wasn't just neighborly courtesy. It felt like a bridge extending across weeks of whispered judgments. I tucked the note into my manuscript folder, determined to build on that connection. The very next day, I noticed Maria watching me from her porch as I loaded Leo and Emma into the car for school. She waved hesitantly, and I stepped across the drive, the twins tumbling behind her. "I wanted to ask if you'd join our PTA book committee," she said, voice small. "We're planning a reading festival next month and could use an author's insight." My surprise must have shown. She glanced down at her sandals. "I know I wasn't supportive before, but I think this could be good for all the kids, even your frogs." She smiled, and in that moment the awkwardness of past gossip seemed to dissolve like mist in the morning sun. "I'd love to help," I said, and saw relief bloom in her eyes. Over the following weeks, we met every Tuesday at the school library after pickup. Maria was organized. She had flip charts, colored markers, a master spreadsheet for events. I brought storyboards, props, and ideas. A scavenger hunt for frog footprints hidden in the hallways. A collaborative mural on butcher paper. A nighttime moonlight reading under blankets and string lights. Maria listened intently, offering her own suggestions. She'd recruit parents to bake lily pad cookies, and she'd ask the art teacher to guide the mural. We fell into an easy rhythm, our previous friction replaced by shared excitement. She admired how I wove themes of courage and community into my story. I appreciated her knack for rallying volunteers and her genuine desire to create something magical for the children. One afternoon, as we stuck foam frog cutouts to the library windows, she paused. You know, I used to think that writing was just a hobby, she said softly, brushing stray hair from her face. But seeing my daughter Chloe light up when she read about the frog's leap, it made me realize how vital storytelling is. I'm grateful you didn't give up on us. I dipped my brush into green paint and grinned. Stories are the threads that bind us. Parents, neighbors, kids. They give us a chance to understand each other. Maria's eyes shone, and I felt a warmth that went beyond shared craft. We had become allies in nurturing young imaginations. Meanwhile, my own children thrived. Leo insisted on hopping around the house like a frog, demanding applause after every meal, and Emma set up a story corner in our living room, draping a green blanket over 2 chairs and placing my manuscript displayed like treasure. At bedtime, they begged for just one more chapter, peppering me with questions about how the frog felt when he jumped, what kind of pond insects cheered him on, and whether there might be a sequel featuring his cousin Ribbit the turtle. Those conversations sparked ideas for my next book, perhaps a sibling story, or an animal orchestra where frogs play the trombone. My notes app filled with bullet points, illustrations, and snatches of dialogue. As the reading festival approached, word spread beyond our school. The district's superintendent dropped by a planning session, enthusiastic about showcasing student creativity. The local library offered to lend us their mobile story van for the day. Even the mayor's office reached out to proclaim a story week that would launch with our festival. From gossip to global support, the momentum was breathtaking. On the day of the festival, the school grounds glowed with festoon lights and painted lily pads leading to activity stations. One tent hosted frog face painting, another had a puppet show of the story, a small stage awaited my live reading. Maria, clipboard in hand, orchestrated the schedule, directing a stream of volunteers, grandparents, high school art students, even a retired librarian, who read in accents so exaggerated that children collapsed in giggles. When it was my turn on stage, I took a breath and surveyed the sea of faces, parents, siblings, teachers, and Maria, front row, eyes gleaming with pride. I opened my book and began to read, voice steady and warm. I paused at the frog's leap, letting the hush settle before the applause bubbled up like a spring. Then, at the climax, when the frog soared above the reeds, I urged the kids to join in. 1,000 fists punched the air. I laughed, heart full. Afterward, at the mural station, hundreds of little hands dipped brushes into green, yellow, and blue. They painted frogs with top hats, frogs with polka dots, frogs paused mid-jump. Maria and I filled in gaps, adding lily pads and cattails. Beneath the finishing touches, I signed my name on the corner, for every leap of faith. As the sun dipped below the oak trees, the crowd thinned. The mural, taped to the gym wall, stretched nearly 30 feet, a tapestry of collaborative art. I stood beside Maria, surveying our handiwork. "Look at this," she whispered. "Every one of those brushstrokes is a story." I nodded, feeling the echo of my own journey, from whispered gossip on a playground bench to this moment of communal joy. That evening, at home, I sat on the couch with Eric and the kids. Leo cuddled his frog plush. Emma burrowed under the story corner's green blanket. We looked at photos on our phones, children wearing frog masks, parents posing with the mural, the mayor cutting a ribbon that read "Story Week Begins." I scrolled to one image, Maria grinning broadly, her twins' paint-splattered hands resting on the mural's edge. She looked happy, really happy, as though she'd found a new role beyond tennis mornings and playdate politics, co-creator of Wonder. I passed my phone to Eric. "Can you believe how far we've come?" he said softly. I smiled and kissed his cheek. Over the next few weeks, the ripples continued. The school board wrote a feature in their newsletter, praising the festival as a model for other districts. Local newspapers ran articles on the importance of parent-led literacy programs, quoting both Maria and me on how creativity flourishes when collaboration replaces criticism. A neighboring school invited me to speak at their council meeting. Maria flew across town to join me, her arms laden with foam frogs and painted posters. She introduced me as my friend, the author who taught me that parenting is a story we write together. The applause that day felt like a chorus of redemption. In the glow of those successes, I drafted my second book, tentatively titled The Pond Orchestra. I weaved into it reflections from the festival. The children's laughter as the puppet frog bowed, the hush of anticipation before the mural reveal, the collective gasp when the mayor stroked whiskers painted on the mascot frog. And I dedicated the book to every parent who dares to believe in their child's leap. In the acknowledgments, I wrote, "To Maria, who taught me that the softest apologies and the boldest collaborations create the strongest stories." One afternoon, months after the festival, I stopped by Maria's porch with fresh muffins and a stack of advance copies of the Pond Orchestra. She answered the door in jeans and a paint-splattered tee, as if she'd just finished another art project. When she saw the books, her eyes widened. "They're beautiful," she breathed, flipping through the glossy pages. She turned to me, voice thick. "Thank you for believing in me." She held out her hand. "Let's see where this next story takes us." I slipped an arm around her shoulders. "Anywhere we choose to jump." In the soft afternoon light, I realized that the same playground where gossip had first echoed was now our starting line for countless adventures. My children's books had sparked more than imaginations. They had rewritten a neighborhood narrative, turning whispers into wonder, judgment into joy, and transforming gossip into a chorus of shared stories that carried us all forward. As I walked home, I tucked the Pond Orchestra under my arm. Children skipping ahead with frogs on their minds and dreams in their hearts. I thought of the countless parents out there, balancing careers and creativity, hovering at playground gates, wary of sidelong glances. And I hoped my story, ours, would remind them that every whispered doubt could become the spark for a collective leap. That parenting and storytelling were the greatest acts of faith we could share.